Today, I want to talk a bit about hemp and roach fishing. Hemp as a bait for roach has been around since the start of the First World War, around about 1914, when Belgian refugees came to near London and started using it as bait on the Thames in Richmond, and it was so renowned for its use there that they said that you used to be able to wave your arm and the roach would boil, and it was known as hemp seed corner. I've been using hemp and tares as bait for roach since 1975, so nearly 40 years, and I've come to prefer feeding hemp and fishing tares on the hook. But hemp as a hook bait does work. It gets you a reasonable stamp of roach and it's got its uses. But I've had a good look through my records, which go back many years of fishing with hemp, and there are some good advantages with hemp, but it's not very good at fetching out the big fish that are often present in a swim that you're feeding with hemp. Tares does slightly better, can bring some of the bigger ones. It's not the whole answer. So let's look at the good side of hemp. The good side is roach like hemp, and on most waters from about the start of July, talking about rivers, you can catch roach on hemp and tares right through till the water starts to cool down, depending on the amount of rain in sort of October, very occasionally into November. And there are waters that are very prolific with roach that you can catch on hemp right through the winter, and there are a few still waters where I found this as well. So it's definitely attractive to roach. It's a very cheap bait by most standards. I think for quality hemp now you're paying about £3 a kilo, which boiled up probably amounts to 3 pints, maybe something like that. So £1 a pint cooked for good stuff, not rubbish, compared to maggots that are more like £4 a pint. Casters even more like £5 or so a pint. So attractive to roach, relatively cheap, very clean bait to use. Your fingers don't stink of ammonia like they do with maggots. It tends to be selective. You tend to get mostly roach. You will catch silver bream, very occasionally bronze bream, small chub, dace will go for it as well. It tends to be a good bait for avoiding bleak. Very occasionally you get a big bleak on it, or a gudgeon. Very rare to get perch on hemp or tares. So all these good points. And another good point is if you become fairly skilled fishing with it on the right waters in the right conditions, especially fishing fine with a pole, it can provide good match weights, including match winning weights, and people like Leicester angler Pete Jays have become real experts at doing that with very fine gear and putting together good weights of quality roach. And when we say quality, we're talking more the sort of 3 ounces, 4 ounces, 5 ounces, 6 ounces, the odd half pounder. And yet those same waters have probably got much bigger roach. And this is the whole point of what I'm trying to get to. I like fishing with hemp and tares. Like I said, tares are easier to use on the hook than hemp. I can use a bigger hook, sort of a 16, very fine wire hooks. Hemp, you're more on a 20 or some 18s. Again, very fine wire. I've struggled, people say about drilling holes in the end of the hemp. I just can't manage it, I'm sorry. I can get it into the split if it's cooked dead right. But what is missing with hemp is that quality. So in a match, yeah, if you catch 8, 10, 12, 14 pounds on hemp, and I've done that sort of weights on the Thames, not in matches, but pleasure fishing. I think the best catch I've had on there's about 18 pounds just on hemp, and almost all roach. But when I look at the bigger roach I've caught on the Thames and the same on the Stour, other baits have got to be better. And one of the ponds I fish regularly for roach can catch on hemp and tares and catch a reasonable stamp of fish. But the bigger ones, the pounders, and I think this is true on the Thames and the Stour, they seem to be shy of it. I think they may be feeding there on the hemp and attracted to it, but they're not succumbing to it. A very long time ago, I fished strep-pegged tares on the Stour at Kinson. There were big roach in the river there. There's still a few big ones. And I set a stick float about 2 foot over depth, cast it in, put the rod in a rest, just holding it, and the float were there, and the tare lay on the bottom, so not trotting through. I didn't get many roach, but I got big ones over £1 up to £2. Also picked up barbel. There were a lot more barbel back then. We're talking 30 odd years ago. The real answer to this, think about those more expensive baits of maggots and casters and how to get the bigger fish. And that comes down to finesse and fishing away, working on the presentation until you find those better ones. With casters, it can be a case of laying on with double caster near the weed. Quite often the big fish will come up right up in the water. So fishing shallow with very small floats with, again, casters or maggots, something I need to explore fairly soon if it ever stops raining and blowing a gale. So hemp sounds brilliant if you're happy to catch them. But if you want them, it's not the answer. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm hoping to demonstrate my points over the coming weeks and months. And so for this week, it's goodbye for now.